You are not losing your calm because you are weak. You are losing it because your nervous system is doing something very specific. It is syncing to the loudest signal in the room. And once you see that mechanism clearly, you stop treating calm like a personality trait, and you start treating it like a skill of signal control. Quick thing before we go deeper. We are building toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription genuinely helps us reach people who actually want psychology that is useful, not motivational noise. And if this hits for you, tap like too, because it tells the algorithm this is worth showing to someone else who is currently surrounded by chaos. Now let me frame this in a way most people never do. When everyone else is losing control, what you are actually facing is not their emotions. You are facing a contagious coordination problem. Humans are herd animals with exquisitely sensitive threat detectors, and when a group starts to panic, the group is not just expressing fear. The group is broadcasting a prediction. Something bad is about to happen, and you should update your internal model right now. You have felt this. You walk into a tense meeting, and your body tightens before a single word lands. You scroll during a crisis, and your chest changes shape. Someone near you gets angry, and suddenly you are ready to argue, even if you were calm 1 second ago. That is not you being dramatic. That is your brain doing rapid social forecasting. And here is the uncomfortable truth that changes the whole topic. Calm is not the absence of emotion. Calm is the ability to stop outsourcing your predictions to the crowd. So let us get concrete. I am going to give you 3 mechanisms that almost nobody talks about, and then I will tie them into one framework you can use in real time when the room is on fire. First mechanism. Your calm dies when your brain confuses volume for validity. Think about this for a second. In most modern situations, the loudest person is not the most accurate person, but your threat system was not built for modern. In ancestral environments, loud, urgent signals usually meant immediate danger. Screaming meant predator. Sudden movement meant attack. So your amygdala, your salience network, all of that machinery treats intensity as evidence. Now notice the pattern. When people around you are losing control, they are not just emotional, they are intense. Fast speech, sharp gestures, rushed decisions, certainty without nuance. And your brain reads that as, this person must know something I do not. That is how panic becomes contagious without anyone saying a single factual thing. Here is what makes this truly interesting. You can break that contagion by doing something that feels almost too small to matter. You deliberately slow one channel of output, not your whole life, not meditation. One channel, speech, breath, or movement, because intensity spreads through rhythm. If you match the rhythm, you inherit the state. If you change the rhythm, you create a competing signal. And your nervous system, plus other nervous systems, start to entrain to whichever rhythm is most coherent. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine someone is spiraling at you, throwing accusations, talking fast. If you speed up to defend yourself, you have just accepted their tempo as the default. But if you respond with fewer words, slightly slower, and you pause before you answer, you are not just being calm. You are forcing the brain to switch networks. You are pulling the interaction out of limbic reflex and into cortical processing. Most people think calm is what you feel. Number. Calm is what you broadcast first. Feeling follows broadcasting more often than you would like to admit. But here is the catch, and this is where a lot of advice fails. If you try to slow down while internally believing the crowd is right, you will look calm and feel terrified. That is not sustainable. So we need the second mechanism. Second mechanism. Panic spreads when you do not know what problem you are solving. When everyone is losing control, there are always 2 different problems hiding inside the same moment. There is the practical problem, what is happening out there. And there is the social problem, what is happening between people. And your brain will often prioritize the social problem because, evolutionarily, social exclusion could kill you. So when the group panics, your nervous system hears, if you do not join this emotional stance, you might become the outsider, which means you might become the target. This is why you can be calm alone, but not calm in a group. Alone, you solve the practical problem. In a group, you start solving the belonging problem. Notice what happens in workplaces during a crisis. People do not just want solutions. They want alignment. They want you to mirror the urgency so they feel validated. In families during conflict, the same thing. Someone is not only upset about the issue, they are testing loyalty. Are you with me or are you against me? Now here is where it gets counterintuitive. Staying calm is often misread as indifference, so people escalate not because they want war, but because they want proof that you care. So the move is not to be emotionally flat, the move is to signal affiliation without catching the emotion. There is a very specific technique for that, and it is not a cliché. It is called dual channel communication, and you can feel it when it works. Channel 1 is relationship. You explicitly name the bond or the shared goal. Channel 2 is pace. You keep your nervous system slow. It sounds like this. I am on your side. I am taking this seriously. And I'm going to talk slowly so we do not make a stupid decision. Do you hear what that does? You just solved the belonging problem directly, which reduces the need for escalation. And because you kept the pace slow, you did not let their rhythm hijack yours. Most people skip channel 1 and jump straight to logic. That is why they get dragged into chaos. Logic does not land in a nervous system that is still negotiating safety and status. And that leads to the third mechanism, which is the most important one if you want to be the person who stays steady when the room is melting. Third mechanism. The real trigger is not chaos. It is status uncertainty. If I had to bet on why you personally lose calm in certain rooms, it is not the noise. It is what the noise implies about your position. Am I being judged? Am I about to be blamed? Will I lose respect? Will I be seen as incompetent? Will I lose access? This is why certain people can stay calm in emergencies but lose it during criticism. Their threat system is calibrated more to reputation than to physical danger. And that is not a character flaw. That is a learned survival strategy. Now watch the pattern. In a group losing control, status becomes volatile. People start posturing, they start assigning fault, they start talking in absolutes, and your brain starts running a background program, protect rank. That background program is what makes you interrupt, over-explain, defend too fast, get sarcastic, or shut down. Those are not random habits. Those are status protection behaviors. Here is the mechanism behind this. When status feels threatened, your prefrontal cortex gets less oxygenated and less effective. You get narrower attention, more black and white thinking, more urgency. That is why you can know the right move and still do the wrong thing. The system that knows is offline while the system that fights is online. So what do you do with that in real time? You do something that sounds philosophical but is actually neurobiological. You pre-choose what you are willing to lose. Stay with me, because this next part recontextualizes everything. If you require approval to stay regulated, then any group can control your nervous system. If you require being understood, any misunderstanding becomes a threat. If you require winning, any disagreement becomes war. Calm requires a small deliberate sacrifice. You decide ahead of time that you are willing to look slower than the room. You are willing to be briefly misread. You are willing to not perform urgency. Because the moment you stop paying the status tax, you free up the cognitive budget to actually think. And now we hit the mid-script turn because there is something beneath all of this that most people miss. People assume the calm person is suppressing emotion. Sometimes, yes, but the most reliable calm is not suppression. It is insulation. Insulation means you reduce the number of inputs that can directly write to your nervous system. And there are only three major ways inputs get in: through your body, through your attention, and through your meaning. Your body. If your breathing is shallow and high, you cannot think your way into calm. Your physiology has already voted. That is why the smallest usable tool is not deep breathing as a slogan, but a specific pattern that changes carbon dioxide tolerance. Longer exhale than inhale for a few cycles. Signals to the vagus nerve that the threat is not immediate. You are not relaxing. You are changing the error signal your brain uses to estimate danger. Your attention. When a room is chaotic, your attention becomes a ping-pong ball. You track every facial expression, every tone shift, every new message. That multiplies uncertainty, and uncertainty is what anxiety feeds on. So the tool is attentional narrowing on purpose. Pick one anchor, one. It can be the sensation of your feet, the feeling of your tongue in your mouth, the exact temperature of the air in your nostrils. Why does that work? Because interoception competes with social vigilance. You cannot fully scan the crowd and fully track your body at the same time. You are choosing which network gets bandwidth. And meaning. This is the hidden one. Meaning is the story you attach to the chaos. If the story is, "This is a disaster and I am trapped," your nervous system escalates. If the story is, "This is a coordination failure and I am the stabilizer," your nervous system organizes. Same room, different meaning, different physiology. Now here is what makes this actionable instead of just interesting. You can install a 3-step protocol that uses all 3 inputs in under 10 seconds. I call it the signal, the role, and the constraint. Signal. You change one outward rhythm. Slow your speech by 10%, or still your hands, or pause before you answer. You are creating a coherent signal in a noisy system. Role. You name internally what you are in this moment, not who you are forever. What you are right now: mediator, analyst, protector, listener. The point is not the label. The point is that roles reduce status uncertainty. When you have a role, you have a script that does not depend on approval. Constraint. You choose one constraint that stops escalation. For example, I will not speak while my heart is racing. I will not answer accusations, only questions. I will not match volume. I will not solve 2 problems at once. Constraints sound limiting, but psychologically they are freedom, because they stop the limbic system from improvising. Let me show you what this looks like in a real situation. Your team is panicking. Everyone is talking at once. Somebody says, "We need an answer now." Your body wants to jump in and perform competence. Instead, signal. You lower your voice slightly. Role. You decide, "I am the coordinator, not the hero." Constraint. You say, "We will take 60 seconds and list what we know and what we do not know. One person talks at a time. Notice what happened." You did not fight panic with positivity. You replaced a chaotic coordination structure with a structured one. That is calm. Or in a family argument, someone is escalating, trying to pull you into defending yourself. Signal. You pause. Role. I am the stabilizer. Constraint. I will not debate while being insulted. And then you say, "I want to resolve this, and I'm not going to do it in this tone. We can talk in 10 minutes, or we can talk when the volume comes down." That is not passive. That is leadership. And it works because you are addressing the real mechanics: tempo, affiliation, and status. Now let me tie the whole thing together into the deeper pattern, because this is the payoff. Staying calm when everyone else is losing control is not about being unaffected. It is about being unhackable. Your nervous system gets hacked by three things: intensity, belonging threats, and status threats. And the room will always contain at least one of those. So the question is not, how do you eliminate them? The question is, how do you stop them from automatically writing your next move? And the unified model is this: you are either inside the crowd mind, or you are running your own prediction engine. Inside the crowd mind, you borrow the group prediction, borrow the group tempo, borrow the group emotions, and you call that reality. Running your own prediction engine, you treat the group as data, not as a command. You observe intensity without treating it as truth. You signal affiliation without merging. You accept temporary status discomfort to protect long-term clarity. And if you want one sentence you can use as a mental trigger in the moment, it is this: I do not match signals, I set signals. That is the difference between calm as a mood and calm as a function. So the next time you are in a room where everyone is losing control, do not ask, how do I calm down? Ask, what signal is trying to recruit me? What role do I choose? And what constraint prevents escalation? Because when you do that, you stop being a leaf in the storm and you become the thing the storm reorganizes around. If this changed how you see calm, I would genuinely like to hear what situations tend to hijack you most, because there are different status threats in different environments. But remember this: chaos is loud, not smart, and your nervous system does not have to vote with the crowd.